Alright, I'm still in lockdown. I'm still bored. And I didn't think yesterday went very well. I was a bit sketchy at the whole thing. So today, I've sat down for an hour and I've done research on all the films I'm actually going to talk about. All the films. There's only six. I didn't research that well because I didn't even count them. But I have researched them. So today should actually be a bit more interesting, a bit more fluid. So it'll roll through a bit better because I know what I'm talking about and I'm not making it up as I go along, which I do quite regularly. Thank you to the one view I got on yesterday's video, which I think might have been me. So thank you to me. I'm trying my best. To all my fans. So yeah, today I'm going over one of my other favourite film distribution company, which was the first film distribution company I actually started to collect films from, just because of the sheer beauty of the boxes, but we'll go into that. It's Shameless Screen Entertainment. They're an English company. They started in October 2007. A long while back now. Far too long to remember. But yeah, they specialise mostly in quite gnarly horror and exploitation, sexploitation, nunsploitation, but we'll go more into that in a minute. They've picked up and released some of the more infamous of the films of the 70s and 80s, very late 60s, one of them I think. But yeah, so first one of the collection, if I keep looking over here it's because I have notes because I don't remember things, is one of the earliest films I bought from them, not the first one, that's coming up. It's called Killer Nun. This was my first exposure to a nunsploitation film. I had no idea what that term was. I'd never heard it before I watched this film. It was made in 1978 by Giulio Berruti. Good name, eh? He was mostly a writer. He didn't actually direct that many films. This was one of his attempts. What else went into it? It was one of the video nasties that were condemned in a moral panic in the 70s and 80s, I believe, by the Tory government. So they ruined everything. Yeah, it was added to the list and banned for sale. It did take... it was released with cuts in 1993 and then released finally in its full form in 2006, which it is right here. First time uncut in the UK by Shameless. See, I loved it. It was a wild story about a nun who's addicted to morphine and is a proper sadist. So she runs a hospital and just starts doing dreadful things in drug-fueled rages to other nuns, patients, visitors, just everybody. Everyone gets it from the killer nun. Now, usually these come with ridiculous, really funny but quite ridiculous taglines on them, and I always love them. This one's, where is it? I'm sure it's had a really good one. Yeah, another reversible, which are always fun. No, not on this one then. But moving on, let's not get stuck up, otherwise we'll be here for hours. My next one is one of the erotic films that they released. It was known as Devil in the Flesh, released by Massimo Dallamano. This version is called Venus in Furs. Now, this is based on a book by a writer called Leopold von Sacher-Masoch. You'll know the word masoch because this book led to the establishment of the word masochist and masochism, and that's pretty much what the story is about. It's about a guy, a peeping Tom, who gets with and then marries a woman who he just encourages to be more and more cruel to him because he enjoys the humiliation and the pain, and it just but eventually gets more and more addicted to it, but it also drives him closer and closer to insanity. I really did enjoy this film. Now, Massimo Dallamano, done that right? Yep, Massimo Dallamano. He made quite a lot of more popular films. He did a lot of spaghetti westerns, so western films filmed in Italy. If anyone doesn't know that, it took me ages to figure it out. Sad as that seems. He made, I got a small list, A Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More were the two big names that I knew. He also made some really good giallo films, which I really do enjoy. What Have You Done to Solange and What Have They Done to Your Daughters? I've got both of them over there. I've got one from Arrow and one from Shameless. Great films, really good films, especially What Have You Done to Solange. I loved that film. This version is cut, sadly. They wouldn't let the full one through. Trimmed by the BBFC. There are some pretty graphic sex scenes in it though, and some pretty nasty violence. So, yeah, well worth a watch if you're into the erotic side of horror. Another one based on a true event apparently, but this one's called Flavia the Heretic. It's just been announced by Shameless that they're going to release this on a Blu-ray, which of course I spent a silly amount of money buying straight away, just because I'm bored at home on lockdown and I've got access to my bank account. A good one, another nunsploitation, but very different in it. A lot of these nunsploitation films are set in medieval times. This one is. Killer Nun is not. That one was set in a more modern, late 70s sort of time, which was different for the nunsploitation films, but still very effective. But yeah, the premise of the story is a nun, of course, who witnesses all sorts of terrible things happen to the convent and her and the locals. She hates a lot of them because they're rapists and all sorts of dreadful things. But it's set during the Ottoman invasions in the era, 15th century Italy. That's it. And a Muslim army turns up and invades. She seduces the captain and gets with him, and they start reaping some vengeance on all the people she feels has wronged them. It's a really crazy film. There's some great scenes in it. There's a scene where a bunch of insane people turn up at the nunnery doing some crazy dance and talking about tarantulas and stuff, which is a bit strange, but very good. And also some pretty nasty ones. There's a pretty nasty sexual assault scene in a pig pen. Very very strong, but yeah, not too pleasant. The actress, you can see on the front there, if I just cover up the nudity that I've just noticed, before I get in trouble with Facebook law. That's Florinda Balkan. She's a very popular actress in the giallo era. She played in Footprints on the Moon, or Le Homme, and Don't Torture a Duckling, which is another personal favourite of mine, but we'll get to that. Next one. This one proper surprised me. It's got a good twist at the end. Pierre Skivazappa, I hope I pronounced that right, a version of his film. The original film was Femina Ridens, but this one's called The Frightened Woman. It's also known as The Laughing Woman, so it shows you the two flip sides of this story. It's about a young lady journalist who's kidnapped by a rich, wealthy guy who has a big sort of kink for sexual torture and all sorts of unpleasant stuff, humiliation and degradation and all that sort of thing. And yeah, basically it all turns around towards the end. It starts out pretty dark, but then flips it over halfway through, and it's got a crazy ending. Great fun though, really good film. First sleeve as well. Shameless have released the most complete version of this. By the sounds of it, it got ripped to shreds by the critics. Not the critics, sorry. The what they call now? The censors. The censors. They weren't pleased with it. There's a lot of violence in it, a lot of sex in it. as you can imagine from the theme. But yeah, this is the director-approved version. Good old Piero. He said this is the version of my film to watch. So he was most pleased by the shameless attempt at doing it right. The lady in it, Dagmar Lysander, the lady on the front there, very hippie. She was known for some other big films that she was in, House by the Cemetery and Portraits of a Lady Above Suspicion. That's a very good giallo if anyone ever gets a chance to watch it. I got it on Blu-ray from Arrow quite recently. Yeah, good film, very good film. Now then, the big lad, the big boy. One of the most controversial films of all time. For good reason, it is grim. The first extreme film I ever watched, Cannibal Holocaust. It's divided opinions for decades. It is a harrowing watch. Directed by Ruggiero Deodato. He's also known for House at the Edge of the Park, Phantom of Death. He made quite a few extreme films, like that got dropped under the in different capacities. I think he was producing and writing and doing different bits for him. But Atroz he did, atrocious. That means all sorts. But yeah, he's made some pretty wild films. But this is by far his wildest. It caused so much controversy when he released it. Apparently, he had to go to court. He was accused of killing his actors and talent because it was so realistic that people were convinced he'd actually killed the actors, and he had to bring them up in court and let them on a TV show because he'd made them sign contracts for a year to stay out of the media so that he could bring out this controversy of them being missing and it being a snuff film and all this sort of stuff. But no, he had to bring them out into court. He had to demonstrate special effects in court just so that he could convince them that they were in fact fake and he hadn't actually done these terrible things to people. And there are terrible, terrible things in this film. Another big controversial point, which is a big controversy for me as well, which I don't think I'd watch it in full form again, is animal cruelty. There are some really, really nasty scenes of animal butchery and torment and torture. They hack up a live turtle, they kill live monkeys. I know that the director himself wasn't keen on it. I know that actors walked off set and all sorts. They were really not pleased about it. But the producers wanted blood. And in the area, what they were doing was considered quite normal. So they did it. And you can't deny that as horrific as it is, the animal cruelty adds a lot to this film. It makes it gritty, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It really does just bring out the horror in it. But the good thing about this one, this collector's edition, the director edition, is that there are two versions of the film on the disc. One with the animal cruelty, one without. That Deodato specifically assisted in editing it out because he didn't want it in either. But it was done. But yeah, another big thing that came out of Cannibal Holocaust, it was one of the earliest of its kind of being a found footage film, in that the story is that it's cans of film that were found in the jungle, and it's the story of what happens to these 4 people who wander around in the Amazon and get caught by the cannibal tribes, because there are loads of them. So yeah, but loads of films quoted it as a influence. Blair Witch Project, people like that. Eli Roth was a big fan. Well, not that he did found footage so much, but he was a big fan of this film. And finally, one more. That's nearly 15 minutes talking nonsense. Oh, this one's... I'm going to turn the cover out on this one so that Facebook doesn't come and get me, because this one's got nudity on it as well. That's the thing with Shameless, they're certainly not afraid of getting as much nudity out as they can. They love it. Which is a big part of the films and the theme of them, I suppose. But it makes it difficult when you're trying to make internet-friendly films. So it's called, I think actually that translates as The Night of Exorcism, but the film is called Don't Torture a Duckling. It's a Lucio Fulci film. Now, Fulci is well known for a lot of different films that he's done. He did The Beyond, he did Zombie Flesh Eaters, released in Italy as Zombie. What else did he do? City of the Living Dead. All sorts. He did some crazy films. He did this one in 1972. He did New York Ripper as well. That was quite a popular one with a crazy duck guy in it. But he claims that Don't Torture a Duckling is his favourite film that he made. Well, he claimed, unfortunately, he passed away. He claimed that was his favourite, quite probably because of the amount of controversy it caused. Now, Lucio Fulci was highly critical of the Catholic Church, and this film reflects that in quite a big way, in that it's based around religious zealotism and fanaticism, being fanatically believing in God's will on things and chasing witches and stuff like that. So the fact that the townspeople suspect the witch, the local witch, that they think is a witch, of being a killer even without very much evidence, and come after her for that. And yeah, it shows the Catholic Church in a poor light, and he didn't like the Catholic Church much. Unfortunately for him, Italy did, and he was blacklisted from work. He had loads of problems from it. Apparently, he was really very unpopular in Italy after making this film. He had another film I can't remember the title of, one of his earlier films, where he touched on the subject and got a lot of feedback, and he left Catholicism alone for a while and then came back to it in this film and got proper laid into for it. But yeah, Don't Torture a Duckling, a film that I bought pretty much for the title, just because it sounded crazy, but actually it's an incredibly dark story about child killings in a small village and who they're blaming, and nobody knowing who's doing it, and just fighting amongst themselves and blaming the imaginary demons in their heads, basically, that religion inspired them to believe were the bad people around them. So yeah, that's my small collection. That's a small part of my collection of Shameless. I have a lot of Shameless films. I've got at least a full shelf full over there. A few collections as well. But well worth a watch. If you like giallos, if you like the old exploitation films, anything like that, it's well worth looking into getting a few of these titles. I definitely highly recommend them. But that's ticking up to 17 and nearly 18 minutes now, and I'll only spend a long time watching it again myself several times, so I'll leave it there. Thank you if you've watched it, and I'll upload this tonight.